and silence their cell phones, please.
Two per person. It's a top and a bottom per person.
I don't know how this one goes.
There's two per person. There's a yellow and a regular one.
I want to welcome you all to the September 3rd regular meeting of the Abingdon Town Council. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and participating in government. It's extremely important that we maintain good participation in our government in order for us to have an open and credible government. Kim, would you call a roll, please?
Certainly. Well, Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Ms. Quetch?
Here.
Mr. Webb?
Here.
Ms. Patterson?
Here.
And Mayor Craig.
Here. Mr. Bradley is going to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is public comments. Mr. Geisler is signed up. Mr. Geisler, if you'd state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Byron Giesler, and my address is 228 East Main Street, Abingdon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I've been a resident of Washington County and the town of Abingdon for the past 31 years. I rise to speak in favor of the resolution I believe the town council will be considering later this evening, opposing the potential move of the Washington County Circuit Court, Washington County Courthouse to the Kmart facility. And I've had a chance to review your resolution, and I would like to commend you on doing an excellent job in the drafting of that resolution, and especially comment on a few provisions of it. One would be the provision that points out that Washington County has received a needs assessment report from Thompson and Litton, which includes an option for full renovation and expansion of the existing courthouse facilities at an estimated cost less than the option contained in the referendum. And I think it's very important to highlight that the supervisors have received a 2016 report from Thompson and Litton that shows being able to do everything that needs to be done under the Supreme Court assessment or guidelines at the current historic courthouse at an estimated construction cost of $1 million less than the projected cost at the Kmart facility. Even though the supervisors had that assessment, they did not include that in their website, their page, their informational page on the internet about the potential referendum. And at the 4 town hall meetings, and I attended every one of those, they did not discuss that option. And when asked why they did not discuss that option, the only explanation given was that it didn't address parking. And so in response to that, the Bar Association commissioned a assessment from an engineering group out of Roanoke, RK&K Engineers, who did an extensive on-site evaluation, used various geographic maps, and came up with 6 different options to address the parking issue at the courthouse. And those are 6 separate freestanding potential solutions. They've been mischaracterized as being one solution that all 6 things have to be done. That if you read the report, that's not at all what's being offered. What's being offered are 6 potential solutions with different constructions costs. There's a potential solution of using existing surface lots located behind the Bundy building that would add 49 parking spaces at a construction cost of $582,000. There is option number 3 is providing a surface lot on Valley Street just across from the existing courthouse parking lot that would add 53 spaces at a cost of just over $1 million. So these are 6 different workable solutions, some of them very economical that could easily solve any parking problem at the courthouse. And so I would commend that to you and ask that it be part of your consideration and part of I know your resolution indicates your willingness to work with the county to try to address any parking needs. There is this assessment that provides very workable economic solutions to deal with that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Keesler's the only speaker signed up, or is there someone else who wishes to speak? Okay, the public comment period is closed. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the April 5th, 2019 regular meeting and the August 15th, 2019 work session. We'll take up both of those at the same time if there are no corrections. Are there any corrections to either of those minutes? Okay,
I move we approve minutes of the August 5th and August 15th meetings.
Motion by Mr. Bradley to approve the minutes, second by Vice Mayor Patterson. Any discussion? Kim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
And Mayor Craig.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is we have 2 proclamations. I'm going to ask Vice Mayor Patterson to read the first one. It's a celebration of the Constitution stated by the Daughters of the American Revolution. And
Yes.
I understand that they want us to have a picture-taking ceremony afterwards, so everybody spruce up a little bit. Go ahead, Cindy.
Thank you, Mayor Craig. It's a privilege to be able to read this proclamation. Proclamation, celebration of the Constitution started by Daughters of the American Revolution. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law, and whereas September the 17th, 2019 marks the 232nd anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd, 2019 as Constitution Week. Now therefore, Mayor Jane Wayne Craig, by virtue of the authority vested in him as mayor for the town of Abingdon, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd of September 2019 as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Patterson. Would you ladies come forward, please?
Can you get in? I'm good. Come here.
May I make one comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like you all to meet our new regent in our chapter, Blacksburg chapter, Cheryl Carter. I just didn't know whether all of you knew or not, but I wanted to introduce her. And also to tell you that the week of the call to arms, which will be September the 17th to the 23rd, all the fourth graders from this county and several counties around will be coming. I'm sure you've heard about that before. We will display this, and we will have a special little station where we talk about the Constitution. We thank you for your support.
Praise God, and thank you for your work.
Same here.
Thank you.
Okay, our next proclamation will be read by Councilmember Derek Webb. It's World Duchenne Awareness Day.
Proclamation for World Duchenne Awareness Day, September 7th, 2019. Whereas Duchenne muscular dystrophy, otherwise known as Duchenne, is the most common fatal genetic disorder diagnosed in childhood, affecting approximately 1 in every 5,000 live male births each year. Whereas the Duchenne gene is found in the X chromosome, it primarily affects boys, however, it occurs across all races and cultures. Whereas Duchenne results in progressive loss of strength and is caused by a mutation in the gene that encodes for dystrophin. Because dystrophin is absent, the muscle cells are easily damaged. The progressive muscle weakness leads to serious medical problems, particularly issues relating to the heart and lungs. People with Duchenne typically live into their late 20s. Whereas Duchenne can be passed from parent to child, but approximately 35% of the cases occur because of a random spontaneous mutation. In other words, it can affect anyone. Although there are medical treatments that may help slow its progression, there is currently no cure for Duchenne. Whereas, because it is a rare disease, one of our greatest tools in the fight to end Duchenne is raising awareness. Whereas on September 7th, 2019, the 5th World Duchenne Awareness Day will take place. Duchenne organizations around the world will raise awareness for all people living with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Now, therefore, Mayor J. Wayne Craig, Mayor for the Town of Abingdon, does hereby proclaim September 7th, 2019, World Duchenne Awareness Day in the Town of Abingdon, and encourage the residents of the Town of Abingdon to increase their understanding and awareness of Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
Thank you, Derek. That concludes our proclamations. The next item on the agenda is a resolution of the Town Council of Abingdon regarding the Washington County Courthouse. Council,
Before we start, I must state that I have a personal interest in this transaction pursuant to Code of Virginia Section 2.2-3112A1. I disqualify myself from participating in the agenda item G1, which reads as a resolution of the Council for the Town of Abingdon regarding the Washington County Courthouse. I am employed, as well as my wife, with KVET Food Stores, incorporated at 1 Food City Circle, Abingdon, Virginia, which is an affiliated company of the applicant, and our salaries derived from said employment may reasonably be expected to exceed $5,000.
thank you, Derek. Council, you have had in your packet the copy of the resolution that's been prepared by the staff, and which they suggest that we act on this evening. I'll read the resolution for the public's benefit. A resolution of the Council for the Town of Abingdon regarding the Washington County Courthouse. Whereas the Washington County governing body caused a referendum to be placed on the November 5th, 2019 ballot, and whereas the question to be determined by voters is, shall the courthouse be removed to 300 Town Center Drive, and shall the Board of Supervisors be permitted to spend $30 million for purchase and renovation expenses therefore? And whereas 300 Town Center Drive is generally known as the former Kmart site, and whereas if the existing courthouse is moved to the former Kmart site, then traffic to access the moved courthouse will result in additional traffic along Cummings Street, which is already a very congested roadway. And whereas a recent traffic study commissioned by the town of Abingdon indicates that 2 additional lanes will be required at the Cummings Street, Cook Street intersection when the Meadows development is completed. And whereas funding is not currently available for the 2 additional lanes, and whereas Washington County has not included the funds for this roadway improvement in its $30 million courthouse estimate, and whereas the 2 additional lanes of roadway are estimated to cost between $2 million and $3 million, and whereas the extension of Cook Street, which is included in the town's comprehensive plan, as well as a recent frontage road study by VDOT, will need to be considered in conjunction with the development of the property and will increase the cost of the project. And whereas a courthouse at the former Kmart site will be inconsistent with the land use plan contained in the town's comprehensive plan, and whereas the former Kmart site is a commercial zoning district B2 where a courthouse is not permitted, is not a permitted use, and whereas traffic flows freely at the existing courthouse, and whereas Washington County has received a needs assessment report from Thompson Litton, which includes an option for full renovation and expansion of the existing courthouse facilities at an estimated cost less than the option contained in the referendum, and whereas the town of Abingdon has pledged by resolution to work cooperatively with Washington County if it chooses to renovate the existing courthouse and construct parking facilities. And whereas there are no land use concerns related to the renovation and expansion of the existing courthouse facilities, and whereas relocation of the courthouse from its current location will have a negative economic impact on historic downtown and erode property values in the town of Abingdon and Washington County. And now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Town Council of Abingdon, Virginia opposes the relocation of the Washington Courthouse to the former Kmart site and supports renovation and expansion of the existing court facilities. Council, you've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
Once again, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move we adopt this resolution.
And I'm a second.
Motion by Mr. Bradley to adopt the resolution, second by Mrs. Patterson. Any discussion?
I think the resolution speaks for itself, and I hope that the Washington County Board of Supervisors will take our offer of helping them with parking and take Mr. Giesler's advisement to do so also. And thank you so much for trying to work with us. We hope you will.
I want to speak in support of the resolution. My main concern, contrary to a lot of other people, is I'm a traffic engineer, and I think putting the courthouse in a location where traffic congestion is a problem is not a very good thing to do. So I support the resolution. Any other discussion? Kim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Abstain.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
And Mayor Craig.
Aye. The resolution passes 4-0. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing, first reading of ordinance pursuant to Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, Section 15.2-2204, consideration of an ordinance of the council of the town of Abingdon, Virginia, to enact an infrastructure advisory committee, Chapter 62, streets, sidewalks, and other public places, Article 6, Section 62-108. Cameron Bell.
Yes, sir. We've discussed this a number of times at work sessions. As you know, there has been an informal infrastructure advisory committee to discuss the pumping station, sanitary sewer systems, wastewater treatment, and other town infrastructure. And council wished to formalize that committee, and this ordinance would do that.
Okay. I declare the public hearing open. Anyone who would like to speak on the formation of the infrastructure committee, please come forward and state your name and address. No one wants to speak on the infrastructure committee. Okay, I declare the public hearing closed. Can we dispense with the second reading, Cam, or do we have to have two readings?
I don't think there's an emergency for this, so we probably need to read it a second time.
Okay. All right. we'll take that up at the next meeting. The next item is a public hearing, first reading of an ordinance pursuant to code of, excuse me.
Ask whether it should be, if anybody has any comments, and then we'll move forward to second reading.
Oh,
Shall
does
it be?
council have any comments on the infrastructure committee? Okay. Is that all we need to do?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, first reading of ordinance pursuant to Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, section 15.2-2204 in the Code of the Town of Abingdon, Appendix B, zoning ordinance, Article 25, amendments, administration, and interpretation, consideration of an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia to amend zoning ordinance, Article 18, site plan review, Section 18.9, historic district entrance, Carter Overlay District. Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir. Council has discussed this matter several times. If you recall, this was referred to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission has discussed it at several meetings. It asked for some informal input at the last work session meeting. We had some discussion, and this proposed ordinance is a result of all those discussions. Primarily, as we've talked about before, it eliminates some of the roads that have been previously indicated as entry corridors in the overlay district that we felt didn't comply with the statute. And then the other part was to give in the ordinance a little bit more detail for use by staff and also for applicants to understand what it was that staff was looking for and what council was looking for, so we have an overarching and consistent application of the rules. I would suggest one amendment to what's been presented to you. If you look at section 18-9-9, it's entitled Role of Design Review Guidelines, but then if you turn to 18-9-11, it just says Design Guidelines, and just to be consistent, I think that 18-9-11D should also say Design Review Guidelines, so there's no confusion about if there's a separate set of guidelines that's referring to.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open on the amendment to the Carter Overlay Ordinance. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward and state your name and address. Okay, I don't think anybody wants to make any comments. I declare the public hearing closed. Council, is the amendment that Mr. Bell suggested, is it okay?
Yes.
All right, now, what do I do now, Cam? Ask if there are any other comments, is that right? Any other comments on the ordinance? Okay, this is the first reading. We'll have another reading at the next council meeting. Second readings, we have none. Considerations of bids, consideration of award of contract for Creeper Trail Trestle Study, Mr. Lester.
Gonna get Mr. Worley instead.
Oh, Mr. Worley, oh, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Mayor Craig and members of council, thank you for allowing me to have an hour to speak to you. I had extra time. I will keep this very brief and short. In 2001, Dewberry and Davis did a construction trestle study with the study as well as engineering inspection on the Virginia Creeper Trail on all of our trestles. We're now in need of moving forward with a second study to do engineering for the first 6 trestles, as well as looking at potential issues that we want to address. Of course, remember always that there's so much redundancy built into the trestles for those running trains over them. What we're putting over the heaviest piece of equipment doesn't even get close to that. So we do know that in the original study there were several items that were identified that we as the town addressed, took care of, and now 18 years later there's some of those have come back, we're sure, and we know there's certain issues that we want to address. So we started the process of RFPs, posted those. We went through a series of interviews. We had a 5-member panel composed of Mr. Webb, Mr. Bullock, Mr. Lester, Mr. Vinsel, and myself, and we looked at the proposals. We actually had 17 interested. We had 7 submit full proposals. Of those, we selected 3, and those 3 were interviewed. Of the interviews, Mattern and Craig, the committee felt was the strongest candidate for what we want to do, not only in what we need to do, but on the way in which we want the whole project done, as well as the presentation back to us. So in the process, we originally, when we started this back at the first of the year, we had some construction estimates, or some engineers do some estimates for us. When we were looking at just doing the inspection, so we put in the budget of $18,000. We decided to expand on that process, which actually took us to about what we estimate about $25,000. And once we met with Mattern and Craig, we realized the professionalism in which they were coming back to us and what they could provide us with. We expanded that scope of service a little bit more, because what we're also looking to get back from them will be the information that we need to go out and seek some additional funding that we can use to do our repairs. And that is in the form of grants or enhancement funds from VDOT and several other sources that we will identify once we get the information back. But we needed it to be a little more comprehensive. And so we got we met with Mattern and Craig last week, and with them, the engineer who we met with, Chad Thomas, did an excellent job in hearing what we wanted and what we needed, and sent back their proposal, and their proposal came in at $31,500. We actually have a certificate of deposit in First Bank and Trust that actually was earmarked specifically for working on the Creeper Trail, and that actually has in it right at a little bit less than $32,000, which will actually make this a budget neutral expense. That comes mature in January. And so we will actually be able to go into the study, complete the study, and Mr. Banner will work with the bank to cash that CD in for this project, and that will cover the full expenses of it. And so what we're asking for tonight is for the council to authorize the town manager, Mr. Morani, to execute any and all documents as necessary for the contract to move forward with Mattern and Craig at the amount of $31,500, and we can go ahead and get them on board hopefully by the first part of October, and they will hopefully begin the work by the middle part of October, which is actually a good time for them.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions, Council?
Mr. Mayor, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you might want to explain your relationship with Mattern and Craig.
Not good. No, I don't have.
I left you 48 minutes on my clock, so.
I don't have any relationship with Mattern and Craig, except my son is a principal in Mattern and Craig. He doesn't live with me. I have no financial interest in Mattern and Craig or any of their other operations, if they have any. Basically, I chat with my son like everybody else does, and that's the only relationship I have. But I will abstain on the matter just to avoid any appearance of a conflict of interest.
It had no bearing on the case, or on the case. Pulling camp here. Had no bearing on the selection.
They've submitted before, I understand.
Yeah,
I don't think that comes into play.
Yeah, there's been several of our local firms who have been contributing information all along this 9-month process as we got to this point, and the interviews were conducted by a 5-member panel that Mr. Webb was the only council member that was sitting on the committee.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, council, what's your pleasure on the Creeper Trail?
I move that we employ Matter and Craig to do the trestle study on the Creeper Trail.
And I second that.
Motion by Mr. Bradley, second by Ms. Patterson. I think he wanted us to give town manager authorization to enter into a contract. Is that
I think I should have said that.
Is it okay with you, Cindy?
Oh, yes.
All right, any discussion? Kim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Abstain. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation regarding the way to play. This sounds exciting, by Jane Deary.
We're gonna take the 25 minutes that Kevin left on the clock.
Oh, my goodness.
Audio visual. You have all met Amanda Livingston. You may not have met her as the new Assistant Director of Tourism.
I don't
And
recognize
she's,
her.
through project management, really earned that position, and she is now directly supervising the visitor center staff at 335 Compass.
Congratulations.
Thank you for allowing us to be on the agenda tonight. It is our pleasure to be with you. So I just want to talk briefly. We are 7 months now into 2019, and I'm happy to report from our reports on meals and lodging revenue and lodging revenue that we are 4% over last year, which is significant. So I want you to know that tourism is doing well. We could always do better, and we're working on that. And if you will allow me just a very brief digression, I would like to introduce Jackie Johnson. She is the new development or advancement person at Barter Theater. Since she is directly involved with fundraising, you will all probably be meeting her very soon. So welcome, Jackie Johnson. For the past 2 years, we, with your support and some additional funding from Virginia Tourism Corporation, have been redesigning our major marketing pieces. And these are the pieces that go out to our potential markets to convince people to visit Abingdon. And we have stayed with our brand. It's always playtime in Abingdon, but we've grown with it. And as phase 1 of this strategy, we're working on a new website that launched in January, focused on 2 things. Most of the people who are visit Abingdon, Virginia, are doing so with a mobile device. And our old website did not do a good job of projecting that website. So we paid attention to that in the construction and the mechanics of the new website. And the other was based on research on how people want to get their information. Our attention spans are getting shorter. We want inspiration over information. So if you have gone to visit Abingdon, Virginia in the last 7 months, you will see engaging pictures and professional and sharp content, pictures, and then you just click on the one you're interested in and you can read to your heart's content.
I get to throw the numbers at you, but they're exciting numbers. Since we went online with the new website this year in the calendar year, our visitation, the number of people visiting it is up 5%, and that's very respectable. What we are especially proud of is that the time that those people are spending on the site is up 22%. So that means that they are staying longer, they're engaging more, and the number of pages that they are visiting is up over 28%. So that is, in my experience in marketing, pretty impressive. So we want to toot our own horn. Again, the whole goal of that is to get them to stay longer, become more inspired, delve even deeper to what we have on the website, and hopefully extend their stay in Abingdon.
So the next phase was building video content. But you can't just stick a video up there. You have to pay attention to getting your message across in a really short period of time, being very tight in that messaging with high quality video. In our research for this grant, we have uncovered that people retain 65% more information they see 3 days later when they see it on video. We also know that the average viewer spends 88% more time on a website with video, and we've seen some of that. So as part of our strategy, marketing speak doesn't work anymore. People don't trust the marketer. Who they do trust is the person who has the experience. So we started thinking, well, Abingdon is known for its hospitality, and we have more than a few characters. So we decided that we would use this authenticity to deliver our message. So tonight, in a couple of minutes, we're introducing The Way to Play, our new iteration of It's Always Playtime in Abingdon, through a video series.
And just before we get to the exciting part, I always say if you make a video and no one sees it, is it really worth the money? So I want you to know that you are the first to see this outside of the full-time staff in the tourism department, but we have a pretty massive PR rollout plan. We're going to be debuting this with a live viewing party online next week, sending out a press release to the media. We will be doing paid promotion around these videos, using it to get more engagement, send more people to the website. You'll see it on social media, you'll see it on our YouTube channel, of course on our main website. We are also going to have 10-second teaser versions, 30-second social media versions, so we have a campaign planned out. And I hope, of course, you will also share it personally. So we will make sure you receive that link as well. And then it will also lead into our upcoming other marketing efforts, including our new brochure. So we're very excited to share it with you first, but please stay tuned to our social media and our website next week for to be able to share it with the wider public.
So we have two short videos, and the emphasis on short, as Ezra Calvert, who is the data number cruncher for Virginia Tourism Corporation, in her words, not mine, she says we have the attention span of a goldfish these days. I think we excel the average. But each of these two and each of the videos in the series will shine the light on our strengths. And the two we're going to show you tonight, the first video features Barter Theater as our arts pillar, and the second shows the Virginia Creeper Trail as our outdoor recreation pillar. And Floyd? There's no picture. Can you start over?
Barter Theater is the second oldest, longest running theater in the country.
It's a radio play. Thank you, Kim. Take two. See if there's any familiar faces.
Here we go.
Thank you. Perfect.
Barter Theater is the second oldest, longest running theater in the country. During the Depression, actors needed to eat, and the people of this region, which grew vegetables, chickens, hams, etc., needed entertainment. And so Robert Porterfield started this theater literally out of the dirt.
The Barter Theater, in addition to being like a huge economic driver, is it really kind of lines up with the spirit of Abingdon in the sense that it's promoting such diverse, interesting and challenging and entertaining pieces of theater.
This world is bent on division right now, it seems. And theater is the one thing to me that unites us. That experience, I'm ready to go to heaven if I'm allowed. The land is embracing here. So the people who live here are embracing. You know, if you live in a flat place, it's harder. This place, the mountains embrace you. The mountains envelop you. And that's how the people are here.
I think people should walk down Main Street, pop into a couple random doors, say hello to a few people, and it'll be overwhelmingly obvious to them how special Abingdon is and what a great community it is. And if you come to Abingdon, you'll kind of find your place, find your people, and find just a tremendous amount of wonderful things to do.
We'll hold off on the second one, Floyd. I apologize. The quality of that video is not nearly what it should play. I'm not sure what the problem is, but I assure you that it doesn't have that time-lapse problem. And if you're like me, I just can't listen to it if the lips aren't matching the words. I hope you get the idea. This is not how we plan to show it, but we will get you the links directly in your inbox as soon as the sites become public. They are not public now. They're waiting for our final approval, which we will be doing any day. Any questions? Again, I apologize that that did not present as we wished, as it should have, as it does on a laptop. But can we answer any questions or any comments?
I want to make sure I heard something right. I read in the newspaper where Barter's revenues were down, and I assumed that the visitation to the town would be down. But from what I heard you all saying, that's not the case.
That's not, and Jimmy and I had a conversation with Rick Rose today. Barter Theater's visitation is currently down 16%. And from Rick Rose, our meeting with him this morning, Shrek was a disappointment. The people who saw it loved it, beautiful production, but it did not perform nearly to the extent they needed it to for their budget. Jackie, I don't want to put you in the spot, but certainly if you want to add a comment, if that's okay with the council, can she add a comment?
Well, I think it was kind of misunderstood.
Why don't you come up to the phone so you'll be on the...
Sorry.
No problem. We just need for you to be on the recordings.
I think it was misunderstood. The play was considered a children's play when actually it's not. It did incredibly well on Broadway. And so I just think it was maybe perhaps a bit of a mistake in the season. It shouldn't have been, but I do think that the ticket sales were way down and it's impacted us. So does that explain a little bit?
I thought it was great.
I
And I'm
think-
an adult and I got kids and I still.
He thinks he's an adult.
Yeah. I actually met with a couple of people over the past few days. I went to the luncheon in Bristol, the legislative luncheon, and everyone around the table said I saw it, and I think people just misunderstood what it was. It was fantastic, so that would be the explanation.
I heard some good comments from my guests that stay with me at the bed and breakfast, so I think it was a good, I didn't get to see it, but they did. And but yeah, in the selections, sometimes it does misrepresent itself, and I do hope that you all continue to do just as good as what you have been.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Thank you very much.
In addition to this morning's meeting, and 2 years ago, in fact, when I first came into this position, I sat down with Richard Rose, and having worked for Barter Theater and heard him say many times that there's some generational differences that are going to be a challenge for selling theater. So 2 years ago, again, we started saying tourism is going to continue to use Barter Theater as an important economic driver and asset to our tourism attractions. We are also going to build up our reputation as having stellar and unique and uncrowded and relatively undiscovered outdoor recreation. So to answer your question, Mayor Craig, the reason overall tourism is not down, reflective of those numbers, is because of diversifying our portfolio, if you will. However, as goes barter, so go so many of our lodging and restaurants and retailers. It's important that we pay attention, that we support the theater, because it is part and parcel part of our fabric and our economic makeup.
Well, we appreciate you diversifying, and thank you.
Thank you.
Presentation
Thanks for
and
letting us
good work.
present tonight.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the application certificate of appropriateness, Marathon Realty, owner COA for approval of final plat to subdivide into 2 parcels, one containing 1.22 acres and the other containing 1.46 acres. Jason Boswell.
Jason, hold on a second.
What?
Again, I must note that I have a personal interest in this transaction pursuant to Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3112A1. I disqualify myself from participating in Agenda Item K2, approval of the application for certificate of appropriateness, Marathon Realty Corp. for approval of the final plat to subdivide property into 2 parcels located at the Meadows Development Lot 9. Again, I am employed with KVAT Food Stores, and my salary is reasonably expected to be above $5,000.
Thank you, Mayor Craig, Honorable Council. You always take my good lines, Mayor Craig, but I'm just going to regurgitate what you just said. This agenda item is in consideration of approval of the final plat for Lot 9, which is located within the Meadows development. Marathon Realty is requesting a subdivision of Lot 9 into two parcels. The first parcel containing 1.221 plus or minus acres, and the second parcel containing 1.461 plus or minus acres. Planning Commission made a recommendation to refer this final plat to the council for approval at the August 26th meeting.
Okay, now, help me remember this. This is the Pizza Hut
Yes, sir.
property?
That is correct.
And what, you're asking us for, this is approval of the final plat?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what's your recommendation?
Staff recommendation is approval. It's a minor subdivision.
The Planning Commission also recommended the approval of this.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for Marathon Realty.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Bradley to approval of the final plat, second by Ms. Quetch. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Abstain.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Hey, you got the next item. Just stick with us. You're supposed to report on the town's response to Washington County regarding the zoning determination of the courthouse. Tell us what you did. We've read it in the newspaper, but I want to hear from the horses.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Craig, Honorable Council. In my capacity as zoning administrator for the town, I have responded to the county administrator's letter dated August 14th concerning the zoning determination regarding the county's interpretation of courthouse being defined as a public office and thus being a permitted use by right in the B2 General Business District. In my response, I noted that the town council included courthouse as a specific permitted use in a specific zoning district, old and historic, while including public offices as a separate permitted use in specific separate zoning districts, office and institutional, B1 General Business District, and B2 General Business District. And my interpretation is that courthouse and public offices have separate and distinct meanings. I reference case law to support this position, where a legislator enacts specific language in one section of a statute but omits it from another section of statute. It is presumed that the exclusion was intentional, and that comes from City of Virginia Beach versus ESG Enters Incorporated 1992. It must be assumed that the governing body chose with deliberation and care the words it used when it adopted the ordinance at issue, and that comes from Miller v. Highland County, 2007. Consequently, my determination and the letter that I sent to, the response that I sent to the county administrator is that courthouse is only a permitted use within Sub-District 4 of the Old and Historic District and is not a permitted use within B2 General Business District.
Okay, there's been a lot in the news media and a lot, this is really, as I understand it, it's just a routine item, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
A developer comes in, asks you if he can do a certain thing in the zone.
Happens all the
You
time.
make a determination, and that's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just
Yep.
wanted to get that.
Yes, sir.
That cleared up, and that's the old historic district, is the only zone in our town where a courthouse can be.
It's the
constructed.
only place that courthouse is even mentioned in our entire code.
So that's the old and historic district.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to put you on the spot, you may not know this, I know you don't have a map in your head, but could you explain to the public generally where the old and historic district is located in town?
It's,
Why don't you clarify what the sub-districts in the old and historic district mean, Jason?
well, it's specific, the Old and Historic District is actually divided into 15 sub-districts. Each one of those sub-districts in the town and centrally located in the middle of East and West Main Street is where the Old and Historic District is at. Each one of these sub-districts has its own specifically designated permitted uses. Courthouse happens to be specifically designated and located in Sub-District 4 of the Old and Historic District.
And generally, what is allowed in the old and historic district? Just
Professional offices, courthouse.
law offices and things like that?
Yes, sir. Restaurants.
Accountants?
Yes, sir. Architectural firms, things of that nature.
All right. Council, any questions? Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a motion to refer proposal approved by the planning commission to remove section 17.4, uses not provided for from Town of Abingdon zoning code. Mr. Morani.
Mr. Mayor, at the Plan Commission meeting, I guess it was last week, we had approved a motion to refer or to recommend to the council to refer a matter back to the zoning, or back to the planning commission for a zoning map amendment. And this particular, and I've distributed a couple sections. One is a section of our code. This is what I distributed to the plan commission members. Section 17-4, uses not provided for. And then the other piece of paper, which is the section of the Virginia statute, which highlights the area where it specifies the authority of text amendments or any zoning amendment. And based on staff's research and in consultation with our attorney, we've determined that section 17.4 of the municipal code of the town of Abingdon is inconsistent with state statute, and therefore we're recommending, staff has recommended to the Plan Commission, who then agreed and made a motion and approved to amend the zoning code to remove this section from the town code. Now, essentially what we're saying is it's not, staff doesn't feel it's good zoning practice. Anybody can come into town hall and say, hey, I'd like to amend the zoning code for this reason, and then there's some procedural right they would have to go by and do that. Now, it's not uncommon to see communities do that. I've seen that done before, and we did have this in our code. We do currently have this in our code, but upon further research of the statute, we don't feel that we have the authority, and that there's no procedural right by an applicant to do that unless it deals with a specific zoning map amendment. So if they came in and they requested a zoning change to their property, they wanted to rezone their property from residential to commercial or vice versa, and there's a process in place for that, and the statute backs that up. But because this is in conflict with the statute, we feel it's unnecessary to have it in the code, and we are recommending that we remove it. It would be referred to the Planning Commission for a hearing, and then obviously brought back to the town council for final consideration. So
all we're doing is referring this matter to
that is correct, and just asking for a motion.
Inconsistency. Okay.
I move we refer it to the planning commission.
You move it. Motion by Mr. Bradley to refer it to the planning commission.
And I'll second that.
Second by Vice Mayor Patterson. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Update on the sports complex, Mr. Morani.
Mr. Mayor and council, I know it might seem like it's been quiet at Ground Zero, but it hasn't been. There's been a lot of dirt movement. We have had a very unusual, as you know, before I even moved here, this was a very wet season, and there has been some additional time that needed to be spent on site preparation. So I've been spending a lot of time with our staff, engineering staff, over the last couple weeks, and even before the meeting had an update on discussions with the engineer about the schedule. So as it stands, as I put in my report, I mean, I think safely over the next 10 to 12 weeks, they'll be continuing to place fill, to get to the final grade. And once that's been established, that information can be incorporated into the final bid documents. So we are hopeful, sometime this winter, we'd be able to have the bid documents prepared to put out for public bid. On a different note, which we talked about a couple meetings ago when Davenport was here, the RFP has been distributed, and it's for the financing or the bond issue, so to speak, that has been out there for about a week, and the deadline is September 11th to receive responses from any financial institution that's interested.
So that's for us to issue the bonds?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, old business, there is none. council member reports. Council report.
Are you saying to me?
You council? We go from that side to this side.
Okay,
Left-
well,
No, right to left. That's counterclockwise, isn't it? Or something like that. Anyway, now you go ahead if you.
I've been to my usual complement of meetings, courtesy of the town, and I've done my share of councilmanic work this past month, and will continue to do so.
So you asking Chuck for your paycheck?
Yeah.
Okay. Donna?
No report, but thank you for allowing me to serve.
Well, we're happy to have you, Donna.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Patterson, report.
I have lots of meetings I attended this past month.
You did a ribbon cutting for me.
I did a
too.
ribbon cutting for lateral staffing service. They are down at next to the Charwood shop, across the street from there, and that was very enjoyable. They've helped employ many temporary folks that need jobs, and I'm thankful for them. And I know that the people that were employed with them are thankful as well for those jobs. And also, just my day-to-day usual on the telephone, talking about town council business and issues, and trying to help people with their issues and report them to Mr. Moraney. And well, it was real busy about the courthouse. A lot of people don't want the courthouse to move.
Mr. Webb, report.
I've had a fairly busy month as well. And as Kevin said earlier, I was lucky enough to participate in the selection of the engineering firm, and that was a really neat experience. I learned a lot, and of course I spend about as much time as anybody on the Creeper Trail, so I'm excited to get that underway. But again, thanks for everything.
Well, I've been reporting to Mr. Tennis, so I'm sure you've read about that. Okay. That
Why don't you
concludes our-
state your age?
What'd you
Why
say?
don't you state your age for Mr. Tennis?
All right, Cal. We have some appointments, boards and commissions. We normally go into a closed session for that, and we need a closed session for a legal matter. I think Mr. Webb is going to make a motion for us to go into closed session.
And I would move that the Abingdon Town Council convene in closed sessions to discuss the following as permitted by Virginia Code, Section 2.2-3711A1, a personnel matter involving, I guess, appointment to various committees.
Okay, motion by Mr. Webb to go into.
We'll do both together? Okay, we're gonna do both together then.
Yeah.
And also, we want to go into closed session permitted by Virginia Code, Section 2.2-3711A7, for consultation with legal counsel or briefing by staff or consultants about the pending cases of Kelly versus Town and Eisenhower versus Town of Abingdon.
Okay, motion by Mr. Webb to go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
I think we should keep this, so when somebody says I messed up, it's like, that's the
Okay.
camera's fault. Like, what is
Oh, no.
I wasn't even here.
That'll be
Okay.
Hawaii.
All right, council,
That'll be
is
Hawaii.
there a motion we go back into open session?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bradley to go into open session.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Patterson. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Aye. Okay. Derek, do
You gonna
you?
read the certification? All right. Let's see. I move that the town council certify that in the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion.
Mr. Bradley.
I so certify.
Ms. Quetch.
I so certify.
Mr. Webb.
I so certify.
Ms. Patterson.
I so certify.
Mayor Craig.
I so certify. Okay, council, we have some appointments to make. The Board of Zoning Appeals, Cindy, do you have a motion to make?
I sure do. Thank you, Mr. Gregg. I'd like to make a motion to appoint, make an appointment for to fill the expired term of Mr. Matthew T. Bundy, P.E., who is not eligible to serve anymore because he's done all the time he can do on that board, and thank him for his service. So I'd like to make the motion to include Wayne Austin to fill his appointment.
Motion by Vice Mayor Patterson to appoint Wayne Austin to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Webb. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Are we reappointing the other two?
Can we
Yes.
reappoint the other two, Mayor Craig?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'd also make a motion to reappoint John P. Kelly, who is eligible to serve an additional term, and thank him for his service, and reappoint Richard Macbeth, who's eligible to serve an additional term as well, and thank him for his service.
Ms. Vice Mayor Patterson, all of that is part of your one motion,
Yes,
correct?
I'm
Okay.
all in one motion, yes, thank you.
All right. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
And Mayor Craig.
Aye. Okay, appointments to the Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee. Al, do you have a motion to make?
Yes, I would move to reappoint Sigrid Phillips and to appoint Mr. Joel Hortenside as a new member of the Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee.
Does that include
Mr.
Mike
Ferris.
Ferris being reappointed now?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Yes, Mike Ferris.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Vice Mayor Patterson. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mayor Craig.
Aye. We have appointments to make on the Sustained Abingdon Committee. Mr. Webb, do you have a motion to make?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Ashby Dickerson to fill a vacant position with a term expiring in January 2021.
And you want to fill the unexpired term also?
No, sir.
I don't think we have anybody else do it. So I guess that Mr. McMullen will fall off, and I would like to thank him for his service in an account well.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Derek. I read that incorrect.
You're fine.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Quetch. Any discussion? Oh, y'all quit making fun of me. I'm old. I'm 79. Kim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
And Mayor Craig.
Aye. Okay, we need to make some appointments to the Recreation Advisory Committee. Mr. Webb, help us out here.
Yes, we have two members that have no eligibility left to serve. And I would like to say that I really appreciate Scott Wilson and Jennifer Ramsayer. They have been integral in that committee for a number of years. Unfortunately, we cannot reappoint them based on the law of the Rec Advisory Committee. So I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. David Childers and Miss Amanda Pillion to the Rec Advisory Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Webb to reappoint, to appoint Ms. Pillion and David Childers, second by Ms. Quetch. Any discussion? Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mayor Craig?
Aye. Okay, council, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. Do we have anything else? Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, what, survived one more time.